Welcome back to another episode. This episode, I feel like I always say this, it's special, but this one is really super duper special because I have a good friend of mine. We're from the same city. She's doing big things. She's the Bureau Director of Wisconsin, a keynote speaker, TED Talk speaker, right? I seen it. It was amazing. And she just came out with her book, which is doing well. She's a published author. Welcome to the show, Lay of the Land, Jori Mundy. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you. And I mean, hearing all that is like amazing. I am all about gratitude and blessings, and my journey has just been able to give me the opportunity to achieve some of those things. And I'm so excited to be here with you. I mean, we go way back. And so I'm just, it's a pleasure.
Absolutely. So, I like to start at the beginning stages, right? Because to get to where you are today, right, I want to see like what seeds were planted, how they were nurtured, and how, the framework of the discipline and the protocols that you do on a daily basis to get you to where you are right now. So let's start with the early childhood, where you're from, and how was it growing up?
Right. Yeah. So, and I love this question. I guess I love, honestly, if I'm being authentic, it's like a love-hate because I'm from and have lived in several places, since childhood. So I was born in Chicago, Illinois, and on the south side of Chicago, and my parents, they were really big on traveling in the country. So they weren't military, but they had an itch. And so they took their 3 kids with them because there was no babysitter to watch all of us. So it's like, you guys are going to go and experience what we want to experience. And so I was born there, and within probably a year of being born, we ended up transitioning to California, to the state of California. And I lived there for maybe 6 years in childhood. And so that was a complete different exposure. It was one of the highlights of my life. And one of the things that I remember specifically was being able to go to Knott's Berry Farm, which, Jay, you probably know or have heard of it. And it's going to a Six Flags or a Disneyland. And, I can think back to times where my dad, he had always worked for very good companies, and with those companies came perks. And so one day we ended up having this trip to Knott's Berry Farm as a part of a perk from his work. And I remember going there one day, and we were completely surprised, 3 kids. So I'm, the sister and two siblings, 2 brothers. And I remember there was this hula hoop contest that I was in that I had no idea I was going to do it. I had never hula hooped in my life before. And somehow I'm in this hula hoop contest with 50 other kids, and I end up placing second. Now, I don't know how that happened, but those are the memories that come back to me with childhood. Is like, I came from a very blessed 2-parent home, and my father and mother had very strong work ethic. So I saw that in them. I mean, my dad, he was a blue collar worker. He was a forklift operator. Every day he went to work from 9 a.m. to 6 o'clock. I'd see him walk in, and I'd see him walk out limping from, how hard he worked from that day. And my mother, she was a superwoman. She literally was someone that I saw that could bear 3 children, raise them all, holds 3 jobs, be a public service worker during the day and a retail worker at night, and then working on the weekends as an operations manager. So I saw that, and that's kind of, I aligned with her. But going back to more of the childhood and the transition, because of that spirit of wanting to travel and them wanting to experience life, we ended up shifting back to Chicago to get closer to family. So that my grandmother and my grandfather in the Midwest, So it just made sense. They're getting older to come back to Chicago. And so I had been in California, sunny California, for 60 years as a kid, going to the pool every day, looking at the mountains. And then here I am back in Chicago on the South Side. And that was very much a culture shock for me, just, full transparency. In California, I was exposed to different nationalities, different children, different experiences. And when I went back to Chicago, it was, hey, you don't look like us. You don't talk like us. You're kind of whitewashed, if you will. And so I never knew exactly where I kind of fit. And that was one of the things that has also been a driver for me, because in this world, we don't have to fit. We can live in our authentic truth and trailblaze our path and be okay with that. But at such a young age, I was trying to fit in these idiocracies of what people wanted me to fit into. And so I dealt with a little bit of that. And then eventually my parents decided, hey, it's time to move where my mother's father lived, which is South Bend. And then that's where I spent all of my middle school, high school experience before I then transitioned to going to school at IU Bloomington. Yay, Hoosiers. And so I had an incredible experience of just being exposed at a young age to different children with different backgrounds, nationalities, living in different places, and then also being challenged at a young age to really think about who Jori is and how does Jori want to show up in the world, because maybe the expectations of some people are different from what I am showing up as, and being comfortable to say, hey, I'm not going to fall to the status quo. I'm going to develop my own path and live in that. And so childhood was incredible. I think back so often about just the nuggets that my mother instilled in me, and she truly was the model that I looked at and I still draw from, because she was just plainly, she was a fashionista, and I just love that. And but she was incredibly powerful. She had a very powerful spirit and wisdom, and she expected excellence from her children. And there was an expectation that you go on and do great things. Like, that was the bottom line. Whatever you do, just do it well. And so, as a teen and being in high school and then going to college, I was working at a grocery store, which I worked at for several years, and I didn't want to let that job go. I'm just going to be honest. Because
which grocery store?
I worked at Kroger.
Okay.
Kroger. Yeah.
Okay. I thought you were at Martin's like me.
Yeah. No. I worked at Kroger, and I worked there high school, and then I worked at Kroger for pretty much my college experience. And I remember when I first got the job, I remember coming home one night and my mom sat me down, and she was like, I'm so proud of you. You've gotten this job, and that's great. Here's the thing. I don't want you to take any experience lightly. So when you go into this job, I want you to be the best cashier that you can be, period. Every day, you give it your best, do your best, demonstrate excellence in everything that you do. And that's all I'll ask of you, and you will make me proud. And that has resonated, because that is one of the things that I have taken in every role, every position, every volunteer opportunity, every crossing of paths of people just wanting to, pick my brain. Like, I treat everything as serious as it is, and I commit to doing it as best as I can. And I would say that is one of the pillars, in addition to having a strong work ethic, that has carried me so far, because excellence is noticed. When you are the best cashier and your line is back to the aisles, and people are just waiting to come through your line because they're like, I just love your smile, and you're just so, and I don't know, there's a thing about you, so I only go through your line. I mean, that's as a kid, just taking your job seriously and making it your own. And so, I would say those are the couple of things that really I have focused on committing to throughout the course of my career and whatever I do. And I pull from, in every position and whatever it is that I'm committed to doing.
So your determination, your commitment to excellence, that your mom, the fashionista, right, who you modeled yourself and your career after, I really want to kind of pause for a second and really kind of hear some of the tools and some of the things she used to say to you to kind of build you up. Because, I have girls, and, you just briefly met, one, and she's in that phase to where it's like we mentioned before we started recording, exposing her to different things. And, sometimes from that, it's like, and I'm like, baby, this is for you. This is not for me. This is for the future. So what are some of the key takeaways that parents that are watching this on YouTube or listening on the podcast, what tools can you give them?
Yeah, so I would say my mom was always planting nuggets, whether I wanted to hear it or not.
Also, and that's natural.
It's natural. Okay. And it became, for me, there were some days where I'm like, okay, Mom, I don't want to lecture. I get it. But at the same time, she would find a way to always point to successful people in the world. And she would say, those people are disciplined. Those folks have a strong work ethic, and they're doing what they want to do because they've committed themselves to doing it. And this is something that you can do. This is something that is available to you. You just really have to work hard and stay committed. And honestly, she used, I would say, just wanting to make her proud as a pillar. And honestly, losing her, it's almost 12 years ago, at the time where I was, one, about to get married in a month and a half before losing her, and two, starting graduate school. Those were two major things, and that happened. But what kept me going is I expect excellence from you, Jori. I expect you to go out in the world and be the best that you can be. That's all I can ask you. Just commit yourself, and doing that would make me proud. And I would feel like I could speak for myself, but many children, they just want to make their parents proud. They want to do the things that are going to put a smile on their face, their parents' faces, that's going to give them that sense of peace and gratitude. And so that's one of the things that hung for me, is anytime she would say, do your best, that always makes me proud. That was the thing that I hung on to. So she would say those things. And she was also a pillar on education. So every day, in some way, there was this speech about education. And it doesn't have to be formal, or it just, hey, whether you go out and get a trade, whether you teach yourself, whether you go to college, but education and knowledge is the key to success. And so, and of course, I did also hear, hey, when you turn 18, you got two options. You're going to either go to college, get a trade, but you're not staying in here. So, and that's just what it was. So it really pushed you to think about, okay, what's going to be my plan? Sometimes it was those tough love moments that really pushed you to really think strategically, okay, what am I going to do? Am I going to get a trade? Will I go to college, or how is this going to work? Because there are clear expectations here. And I think that's another thing that, it's hard, of course, as a parent. I have a kid, a 2-year-old, and I want to give this kid chocolate every day. I'm like, I just want you to be happy. But I also have to really set those expectations so that he recognizes those and he can use those as pillars to move forward. And so, so Jay, for you, of course, a teenage girl, sometimes it's hard to hear them, but don't think that it's not sinking in. Don't think that, those thoughts and what you're sharing isn't encouraging her and inspiring her, and things that later on down the line, she will come back to and say, my dad said on this day, hey, look at this. Or I remember before, when my dad was doing this podcast and there was this random lady there and she told me these thoughts, she'll remember those moments, and it's just being diligent as a parent, I would say. And like I said, I'm speaking to myself as a new mother, is being willing to continue to have the conversation and set the expectation and the standard for excellence. And because that's really what's helped me move along in my journey.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. And that just gives me confirmation that, some days are tough and it seems like nothing is getting through, but, we both were kids, and there's certain things that our parents instilled in us. So thank you for sharing, and sentiments to you and your family. Your mother did an excellent job, and she's definitely living through you right now. But I do want to, you briefly touched on your education, IU Bloomington, we're Hoosiers for sure. So on there, so once you got to IU, what was your major? What was your experience like there on campus?
Yeah, so when I got to Bloomington, I had this fond love for English. That was my subject in high school that I loved. And I was like, you know what? There's something about English that just pulls me. And when I got there, it's like, there's the questions. Well, what are you going to do with an English major? And what job are you going to get? But I still charted forward based on what my heart was telling me. So I kept an English major, but I ended up going with African American diaspora studies. And I feel like that experience grounded me to show me where I've come from, the lineage that was set forth before me, to recognize where I am today. And I feel like college was just that. It was really learning about myself, learning the tools of, hey, you can have fun, but you still are committed to make sure that you get what you need to get done. So not only, hey, I'm learning myself, but I'm instilling in myself discipline. I'm instilling in myself consistency. I'm instilling in myself those determination, like all of those things, because, I can go out on Tuesday night, but if I have a paper due at 12, at 11:59 that night, then go party, but recognize you need to have that paper done. So it really also instilled in me the aspect of priorities of, I want to be successful, and I want to carry this 3.0 GPA. And so what do I need to do as a part of that? And that's another thing that also was monumental is being able to balance the things in life of wanting to be with friends and be with my sorority sisters and experience different things, but also staying committed to why I'm here, and building in those habits of, hey, okay, keep your eye on the prize. You have to have this paper done. You've got to study for this exam. You've got to do those things so that you're still balancing this GPA while also managing having fun, while also getting to know who you are. And so I feel like it shaped me in many ways. And I feel like also there have been people, and I call them earth angels. I call them my earth angels that since I can remember, there are people that come into our lives, and sometimes we don't even know why they are there. But those individuals are what helped me get through the courses that I thought I wasn't going to get through, and they were just planted there to help me succeed. And I feel like that's also something that, as I look back at in my life, something that I could count on is that no matter where I go or where anybody goes, there's always going to be people somewhere, somehow, that will help you. Some people that will challenge you, some people that are just around, and it's just being able to be aware that they're there and, and leverage them as much as possible, and also pour back into them as much as you can. So, yeah, I mean, my time there was, I could talk about college for years, and I don't know, I want to share all the details, but I'll just say that, it was an incredible experience, and I couldn't have asked for a better college experience, because it really did, shape me, and building those habits and keeping things in perspective in terms of priority, while also balancing life so that you can have fun and also be successful.
So, Jori, I definitely want to give you, again, a shout out to your parents, because they instilled a lot of discipline and work ethic in you earlier. I think without college and what we're seeing in the marketplace now, that, the conventional 4-year degree or the master's degree, to get into those spaces and places, I think they're using, more trade schools or certificates are really hot right now. And just as long as you have the work ethic, the personality, interpersonal skills, you definitely can jump over some hurdles and get into those rooms and make a splash. But I definitely want to, this is for the parents that, my kid might not be for college, but they really like this thing. They might really like UX, UI or coding. But I think just those pillars you were talking about, just that work ethic, I think as long as you're following your journey, your truth, your passion, you'll definitely get there for sure. So now we go to your professional space. You've been working for multiple states in different, is it kind of the same capacities, or have they just okay, let's talk about that.
Yeah. So I started out actually with the state of Indiana, and I worked boots on the ground as what's called an eligibility specialist. So I've typically worked in public service, and when I was in that job or in that role, my responsibility was to help people determine whether they'd be eligible for specific programs. So like public assistance programs, like a healthcare program or a food program, to help them just in their daily lives. And so I spent quite a bit of time there. And from there, you just get these perspectives. You see what people are going through. And for me, that's what drew me to public service, because I typically am a very empathetic person. I want to do whatever I can do to help community, to help people in their journey, just whatever that looks like. And so I started there, and then, from there, it's not been linear. I have from that experience moved on to different roles. And there have been those times throughout the course of my career, which I call these times that are the most impactful and pivotal because of the Earth Angels. So I had someone that I was working with who was a client that came in one day, and it was an elderly lady, and she was okay with me saying that. She was like 80 plus. And she came in and she wanted to see if she'd be eligible for some additional assistance. And so, I was doing what I normally do, going through her case, entering her information in. And then I got to the end of the eligibility, and then it told me that she wasn't going to be eligible. And this was always the hard part of the job, of course, because now you have to tell someone that, they're not going to get any additional assistance. And so So I did. And this time it really hit me. And I was just like, I really don't want to do this. She's worked her whole life. She's only receiving Social Security. She if anyone needs this, it's her. And so anyways, I took a deep breath and let her know, like, hey, you wouldn't be eligible today, but if anything changes, come back, And she was like, oh, honey, it's okay. I'm just so thankful that for people like you that are committed to doing this and that are wanting to help people like me. And, it's those moments throughout your journey where you're doing exactly what you are supposed to be doing. But it also, in that moment, inspired me to want to do more. So I felt like I want to be in a position where I can change things to help a person like her. So that night, I applied to get in a graduate program, and then I also sought out a position to work in policy, and so because that's where change is made in policy. And so I started on that journey on that same day, and within a couple of months, I ended up landing that job, getting in policy. And then I was later accepted into the program to further, educate myself and basically prepare for what I anticipated, because I figured in order to help her, I know that I have to be in a position that's going to affect change. And in order for me to be able to do that and put myself in that position, what's the best tool that I can use? And that was the first thing that came to my mind is, let me go back, get more education. This could be a certification or a trade these days. I mean, it's whatever it's going to put you on a path to give you the knowledge, to give you the skills and experience to be able to be successful in what you want to do. And so that's where I ended up going. And from there, I ended up meeting more people in that position who then said, you're amazing at this within 6 months, and said, hey, I think you should head over here, which over here was in technology. I was like, I'm a policy person. That looks really good. And I had some questions, but once again, those earth angels, the people that you meet, they're like, I see something in you. You would be incredible. There's, you'll be able to use your background. And so I said, okay, well, I'll make this jump. So then I ended up moving into working for the actual system and learning that background. And that actually gave me the propeller to move into my first junior executive position, where I was overseeing eligibility systems for the state. So it's like sometimes those things that come up and you question, wait, I'm over here. This is what I know. Sometimes it's not, that's there, that. But if there's an opportunity to learn or to take on a different, a change just to gain more knowledge and experience, that may be where your life is pointing you. And so, then I jumped there and worked there for some time. And then met someone else that really had an impact. And from there, we worked very closely together, and she ended up moving on to a different role, specifically still in public service, but just in another area of focus. So really with prescription drugs. And so I was like, oh, okay, that's a nice fit. That's, you kind of want to learn as much as you can learn in the public service sphere. And so I thought that was interesting. And then just so have it, a position came open, with her specific department that I ended up interviewing for and moving into that role, which was my first executive position, managing different systems and projects and programs. And once again, it was completely out of the policy realm, jumping out of the systems, but more into learning more about different public service programs. And so I did that. And every minute of every role, I was like a vacuum. I sucked up everything that I could take in. And from there, I learned so much. And then I eventually ended up wanting to come back home. And what I say is home is back to where I started, which is eligibility, and in a different way where I could affect change, going back to the conversation that I had. And so, that's where I am today. Today, I get to sit in the rooms to make decisions to help those individuals, but I went on this non-linear path to get there. And so it's coming full circle, and there's so much more that's in between that happens, but it really did, it's shaped me, and there's been many valuable experiences that I've had throughout that time. So
you've been able to, use your past experiences to leverage to get you in certain doors and to affect change. And I like that so much. There's no straight, path to get there. And I feel like you gain so much from that. Right. So let's talk about your TED Talk. Right. So I've seen it. I watched it. I was so inspired. I was like, yo, that's Jori. Like, that was so amazing. And the way that you commanded the stage and the presence and the way that you delivered it, I was just so impressed. Let's talk about that experience for a moment.
Yeah, so that experience was definitely one of the most memorable since I started actually my speaking career, my professional speaking career, and I honestly was challenged the most with this talk. So it took a lot of tenacity, research, honing, discipline, commitment to get it where I wanted to get it to get on the stage to really share, this idea, this thought, because, the topic really comes back to what I've been saying throughout the course of our conversation, Jay, which is sponsorship, which is being able to recognize specifically where people that have hiring power and have a reputation and authority to be able to put you on a pedestal, to raise your profile so that you can get in these different positions. And so I wanted to do so in such a way because, as an African-American woman and working through these different spheres and in these positions and roles that I've been in, there's a different dynamic there with trying to step up the corporate ladder, if you will. And so I wanted to also share the experience and, the statistics and data and what it's saying about having opportunities as a Black woman to get sponsorship, and how the level of success to ascend into executive level positions goes back to having somebody that really believes in you and that's willing to raise that profile, in addition to you building up your skills, building your experience, and having whatever you need to get you there. And so I put a lot of pressure on myself with the talk, and I wanted it to really resonate for decision makers, for sponsors that are in the positions that they're in, to recognize specifically for the marginalized population, which is, one, African-American women, and there are many others. So not to single, Black women out, but to say that this is a space where we need you. We need your help in order to raise, to break these glass ceilings so that Black women and other marginalized populations can get into these roles to affect change or do whatever it is that their heart is telling them to do. But it takes, those partnerships and specifically sponsorship to get there. And so, there were many nights, that I poured over, data, statistics, and, that I literally worked with a coach, and bounced different things off of my coach, and also just really ruminating on what I want to leave the world with as it relates to this topic. And so it was an incredible experience. It was, like I said, one of the most challenging talks that I've given because of just wanting to ensure that the message that I wanted to leave with was one that was inspiring those who were in those positions to be able to take action.
Wow. Again, it was so incredible. I was so happy, and there was joy all over my face when I watched it. And I did show my daughter that too as well. So I'll show her again so she can put it together. So let's talk about your book as we're landing the plane. You are a author. How was that experience? What can people expect to get from your book?
Yeah. So I will do a shameless plug because I have so many.
Let's go. Come on, more over here. There you go.
From Doubt to Clout.
There we go.
So writing a book is, in my experience, I will just speak from my own personal experience, it requires that level of discipline and commitment. And it is, and for me, it was extremely time consuming, and but it was a great experience because I love this quote from Maya Angelou, and many people have maybe heard it, know it. When you learn, teach. And once I recognized that, hey, I have been so fortunate and gracious to, climb these ladders amidst the challenges, because there have been challenges, amidst the adverse situations, because there's been those also, amidst all of these things, and to come up with a playbook that I used in order to do that, to gift to somebody else, to basically gift to my old self on, hey, come here. Let me tell you, this is what you can use. These are the things that you can do in order to get yourself to where you want to go. And then in that place, the book is founded on giving these tips in order to get to an executive position and role. And so what I did was really look back over the time and looked at what would I tell my younger self at that point in time when maybe I was just moving to the state of Texas and I knew nobody, Jay. I knew no one. I had to build a whole network, and I really didn't have the landscape of what do you do when you go in a meeting? What should you say? What should you not do? What skills should I be focused on? How do I do this or that? And just wondering and kind of being in the trial and error, and sometimes, of course, with the loss of opportunities, because you're going by what they say, blowing from the seat of your own pants and hoping that something is sticking. And so that's really why I wrote the book, because I wanted to share this playbook that I know that at a point in time could have helped me immensely to save me some of the mistakes that I made, where I stayed up late at night saying, why did you say that? Or why did you do this? Or, or knowing how to navigate in certain situations, specifically office politics. I talk about that, which goes unsaid many times. So let's pull behind the curtain. Here's what you say and here's what you don't say. Here's what you do and here's what you don't. These are the things that I had to learn and just had to go through. And I wanted to just gift that to people that are on that journey, and to know that these are the steps that you can use. And I have had, some that have read the book and have said, even if you are not seeking to become an executive, this is a really good book just in terms of career progression. And so, so you may not even, be looking for that highest level position, but there are skills or knowledge in the book in terms of, how you can just ascend in your professional career. So it is something that's near and dear. Like I said, it took a lot of commitment. I'm full transparency. I'm a very candid speaker. And so I want to share it. It was an experience, but one that I will never forget, that I'm very happy about because it just goes back to what Maya said, which is when you learn, teach. And I knew it was at that point in time that it was time to reach back and share this for others so that they can have a good experience.
Well, I can't wait to dive into it. First, is there going to be an audio book in the future?
An audiobook. That's something to think about. I actually thought as I was rolling out, the three versions, which is Kindle, paperback, and hardcover, if I would think about doing an audio, and I think that I wanted to get a sense on what the need is, and if there is a want to, hey, let me just listen to this versus. So I think, maybe so. Maybe we'll pump out an audio version so people can just listen and, and that makes it easier for people to get the message too. So.
Well, I'm going to definitely take a deep dive. I'm definitely going to support you. And how can people find your amazing book?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find, and I'm going to pull it again.
Let's go. It's all good.
Yeah, you can find the book. And it's on my website, jorimundy.com. So you can go there and there's a link there that just leads you to buy now, and it'll take you straight to the website to purchase it. Also, alternatively, you can just go to Amazon and type in From Doubt to Clout, and it'll pop right up the different versions. And then you can purchase it that way also. So
love it so much. Any last words if you had to give somebody, your younger self, right? One word, what would you give that person?
Believe. Believe. I'll leave you with this, Jay. This is something that I go back to is I love this movie called The Great Debaters. I don't know if you've ever seen it or heard of it, but
I think I checked it out just yet.
Oh, okay. So it's a really good movie about this debate team that was an African-American debate team that went to I believe it was a HBCU in the state of Texas in the early 1900s. And at that point in time, this professor had cultivated this incredible debate team. And he cultivated this debate team so much so that they ended up becoming the great debaters, winning against Harvard back in that time. And there was one scene in the movie that showed one of the debate team members coming in to their coming home, and his father was a professor. And the professor, his father, he was walking around thinking about what lesson he was going to teach people for the next week. And so he paused and he said, "Son, what's one thing that can hurt people the most that we can teach on?" And he said, not believing. If we don't believe in ourselves, then that can hinder us and create barriers for what we can achieve in our lives. And one of the reasons why, I've been able to, like I said, been very blessed and gracious is because I always have a strong belief in self, regardless of thoughts from others or, other considerations. What do I believe I can do? And if you believe in yourself and you see a vision and have it in your heart, follow it, and it will take you beyond your wildest dreams.
Well, thank you so much. That was so amazing. Thank you for, taking the time to connect with me and give our audience this blueprint, this framework. Make sure you guys check out From Doubt to Clout on Amazon. Make sure I'll leave the links in the description. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, and follow. Until next time, peace and love.